Welcome back. Our next character is why the world for the forgotten characters is called the Wasteland. He's the reason why everything is in ruins, and why these goo monsters roam the land. This is the Phantom Blot.
Now, we all know him from the games as this big inked monstrosity, but in his beginnings, he was way far from that. He was a hooded criminal wearing all black, and as time would move on, he would become more and more of a criminal mastermind. He was a master of hypnosis, master of escape, knows a lot in psychology, a blackmailer, created many different inventions, and steals money to make his plans work. In many ways, the Phantom Blot is the Disney version of Sideshow Bob. There are times in the comics, usually in the Italian ones, where we see him unmasked, looking like a Walt Disney dog hybrid. He began in a Disney comic book called Mickey Mouse Outwits the Phantom Blot in 1941. After that, the Blot had a long hiatus until he returned in some Italian Disney comics and a comic series in the States called The Return of the Phantom Blot in 1964. In the mid-70s, when he appeared in Supergoof, the guy who drew those comics, Roger Armstrong, gave the Blot a mouth, so he would be more of a shadow than some guy covering his whole body with black clothing. There are also times when he would team up with other Disney villains, like the Beagle Boys and Madame Mim from The Sword and the Stone. At one time, he even got his own series of comics called The New Adventures of the Phantom Blot. Recently, the Blot is the main villain of the comic saga Wizards of Mickey. Meanwhile, on TV, the Phantom Blot would make his debut in one episode of DuckTales called All Ducks on Deck with Donald Duck, where he steals a Navy seaplane. In there, he was voiced by Frank Welker. A decade later, he appeared in Mickey Mouse Works in a short called Mickey Foils the Phantom Blot, which is based on the comic where he first appeared in. Many fans claim that this is the best short that came out of the show. Then, he would appear in a couple of episodes in The House of Mouse. Both in Mickey Mouse Works and The House of Mouse, the Phantom Blot was voiced by John O'Hurley.
Over the years, in either comics or TV, we always see him as the hooded criminal, and a smart one at that. But in Epic Mickey, he has completely changed, and now he's even more threatening and dangerous.
Originally, there were supposed to be two different kinds of blots, the Phantom Blot and the Shadow Blot. There are many rumors spreading around about what would be the role of the Phantom. Some say he would have been a thief, an extra, a boss, or even the main villain of the game. But they removed him because people would be in a who's on first situation on which Blot the characters are talking about. As for the Shadow Blot, he was supposed to look a bit more like the Horned King from the Black Cauldron. Well, I guess knowing the game, he wouldn't look that— OH MY JESUS! Moving along, this Blot here is now considered the new version of the Phantom Blot. In the game, he's made out of both paint and thinner, and Frank Welker returned to provide the voice for him. When he arrived in the Wasteland, he corrupted everything, making Oswald lose his power and team up with the Mad Doctor to take the biggest heart of them all, Mickey's. Then, Oswald and Hortensia successfully stuffed the Blot in a bottle, but even if it's sealed, there are still some drippings coming out of it, which causes the creation of the Blotlings. You may think that he looks like what he did in the beginning, where he looks like Oogie Boogie from The Nightmare Before Christmas. But when he's out of the bottle, he's nothing like that. He's actually more powerful, more threatening, and more huge than before. Who would make this destructive force of nature? Well, no one but Mickey Mouse himself, when he was messing around with Yen Sid's stuff before he was famous. This is without a doubt the most dangerous and most destructive thing that the mouse has ever created since Lindsay Lohan.